Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Paladin Archives. My name is Mason Cren, and I am your humble guide to all things monstrous. I'm so happy to have you back because, man, I made a heck of a sacrifice on this one. Hit the bumper. Yes, this is Monster Menagerie here at the Paladin Archives, where I, Cren, analyze the origins, physiology, and powers of media's greatest, and not so greatest, monsters, and then give my official Paladin threat assessment and recommendation. This month, we're really feeling it, guys. This month, we're Morbing out. Yes, it's the pseudo-MCU's Michael Morbius. And before we get started, please like and subscribe, guys. I sat through this movie multiple times. I think I earned a like, don't you? I'm gonna put my feelings about the movie itself aside and focus on our living vampire himself. But seriously, if you haven't seen this movie, don't. Just don't. Nothing about it made sense. It might literally be harmful to your brain. And this is coming from the guy that had to watch Twilight several times. Anyway, before we get too deep in that, I'd just like to go through our standard pleas for love and attention. If you like what we do here at the Paladin Archives, make sure you check us out on Twitter, take in a live stream over at Twitch, and of course, most importantly, swing on over to MatthiasTautimus.com, where writer Matthias Tautimus has put pen to paper, metaphorically he used a computer, to create a story about our clandestine order called The Paladin. The Paladin's the story of young priest in training Jonathan Sutter, who is brought in to assist with a demonic exorcism. When everything goes wrong and Jonathan loses his mentor to the powers of hell, the Order steps in to offer him a way to seek retribution. Dark, funny, a little scary. Think Dresden Files meets SCP and you're on your way. Once again, you can swing by MatthiasTautimus.com to read the first 3 chapters of The Paladin and see some really cool artwork. Oh, also remember that come December, we're going to hold a poll to decide which of the vampires we've looked at this year is the most vampiric of the lot. Which bloodsucker will reign supreme? Stick around to make sure your vote is cast. Okay, enough shilling. Let's get to what you're here for. Watching me flounder as I try to conceptualize Morbius. Let's grab some blue and set our timers because we're all about to morb out. Dr. Michael Morbius was born with a rare blood disease. He spent his entire childhood in Greece at a special hospital where daily blood transfusions were required to keep him alive. His condition meant that he could only move around with the aid of crutches. He was apparently incredibly bright. So bright, I have a hard time comprehending exactly how he did what he did in the movie, but perhaps that's my shortcoming. He dedicated his life to curing the disease shared by him and his childhood friend, whose real name he continued to refuse well into adulthood, eventually creating an artificial blood that helped revolutionize medicine. His accomplishments were acknowledged by the Nobel Prize Board, whose award he flew all the way to Sweden to turn down in person at the ceremony. With the support of that same friend, whose name did not seem important enough to remember properly, he funded his research into curing their shared disease. By splicing vampire bat DNA with human DNA, he created a serum that temporarily cured their condition, with only the slight side effect of turning him into a vampire. Like, straight up. He requires human blood on a regular basis, though apparently he can temporarily stave off the ill effects of his new condition by drinking his blue, artificial blood. You know, there are a couple of ways known to the Paladin Order to become a vampire. Shoving bat DNA into your veins is not one of them. But I'm sure that's the last of the odd stuff we have to worry about. Let's press forward. As mentioned before, Morbius is quite bright. With that intelligence, however, seems to come a certain air of aloofness. He's not particularly violent by nature, but he does seem to pick and choose who he treats with common respect. Little girls in the hospital? Check. Nobel Prize Board? No go. Overall, he doesn't seem to have a particularly violent personality, at least when he's not on red. He treats others well enough, doesn't pick fights, and otherwise seems quite reasonable, if somewhat condescending. Also, he really loves origami. Not much else to say about that. Okay, now this is where we're going to get wild. We finally have a legit comic book superhero on the show. You'd think that would have made researching this more fun. Anyway, after injecting himself with a serum made from, bat DNA, he gained a suite of powers rather reminiscent of your typical vampire. Let's go down the list. Super strength? Check. Super speed? Double check. The movie actually says,
I have the constitution of an Olympic athlete, increased strength and speed that can only be described as superhuman.
He's strong enough to break through reinforced glass and can react fast enough to dodge bullets fired from an assault rifle. And that's just in the first 30 seconds of him being a vampire. He's able to leap long distances, playing hopscotch across the New York City skyline, grows his fingers into claws, not quite up to the level of Menagerie, but, still impressive, and gains hearing so good he can use it for echolocation and even pinpoint a single voice across the city. Now, just how strong is he? Well, that one's a bit of a problem. The two big exhibitions of power we see are when he breaks through the security glass on the ship and again in the prison. Note that in the prison, he attacks the glass and not the concrete wall. Most prisons don't use full-on bulletproof glass as firearms are strictly controlled within their walls. Instead, they use various types of security glass meant to resist attacks from weapons and scratching. If we assume he's breaking through the higher-end stuff, he needs to exert a force of 200 megapascals to break out of the prison, which converts to 2.09 tons per centimeter squared. He cracks it with his fist, but then shatters it with a kick from both feet, so we'll estimate the area of his feet is about 1 foot square or 30.5 centimeters square. Now that we have matching measurement types, we can put in our formula. 30.5 times 2.09 to give us 63.7 tons of force. Very respectable. Since we seem to like comparing things to Dracula himself, if the Count can lift 1 African bush elephant, then Morbius can, theoretically, lift 9. Once again, my math might be wrong, and I welcome any corrections down in the comments section, but that does seem to match up to what we see in the movie. Next, let's see just how fast he's actually reacting. In this early scene, just after he gets his powers, Morbius is shot at by an assault rifle at nearly point-blank range. According to the Internet Movie Firearms Database, yes, that is a real website and it is glorious for people like me, the mercenaries on the ship are using CZ Scorpion Evo 3A 9x19mm. Plain old Wikipedia tells me this submachine gun has a muzzle velocity of 370 meters per second. Looking at the scene in the ship, it's hard to tell how far away the man firing at Morbius is, but I think we can ballpark it. I'm gonna say maybe 6 meters? Close enough for government work. Velocity equals distance over time. Work backwards, and 6 meters divided by 370 meters per second gives us a time of 0.0162 seconds. That's 1/100th of a second that it takes to travel from the barrel of the gun to Morbius' position. That's his reaction time. 1/100th of a second to process and move. But he does still have to move, so how fast is he moving to dodge the bullet? Let's assume he only needs to move half his body width for the bullet to miss him. Thanks to CelebrityInside.com, we can see that Jared Leto's chest is 43 inches, which I believe is all the way around, so cut that in half and we have 21.5 inches. Cut that in half again to get the number we want, and we have 10.75 inches or 27.305 centimeters. Once more, velocity equals distance over time. Our distance is 27.305. Divide that by 0.0162 seconds, and we have 1,685 centimeters per second. Let's make that mean something. Move the decimal place to get meters, and Dr. Michael Morbius is moving 16.85 meters per second, or 37.69, nice, miles per hour. That doesn't sound terribly impressive, but you have to remember he's going that fast instantaneously. The average human takes 0.25 seconds to respond to visual stimulus, and Morbius is doing so in 0.0162 seconds. That's 15 times faster than the average human. The average human blink is only 0.3 seconds. But if that's not fast enough for you, he can also apparently fly? glide on wind? It's not really clear what he's doing because Milo doesn't seem to be able to do it. It looks like he's riding air currents, which somehow bat DNA allows him to do. Either way, he stays in front of a New York City subway train, which travels at 55 miles per hour. That one was pretty easy to calculate. He may or may not have a strange ability to emit electromagnetic pulses that interfere with electronics. There's a scene where Milo is stalking a nurse at the hospital Morbius works in. As she makes her way down the hall, the lights keep flickering on and off without any apparent reason. Might be something to keep in mind. Maybe it'll throw off the scanner devices. Oh, before I forget, he has one last power, and I don't even have to stretch for this one. He can summon bats. They literally flock to him and commune with him, and he can fire them like a bat Kamehameha. What is this movie? Let's take a deeper look at Dr. Michael Morbius' physiology, shall we? Once again, no proboscis or fang... Wait. We have fangs! 4 vampires in and we have fangs! Hit it, Maddie! Can you believe it? We finally have fangs! I'd be so happy if this was a different movie. Anyway, the main feature I need to draw attention to is his physical health. With just a single dose of his bat drug, Morbius is able to go from barely able to walk to rocking a 6-pack. When he really morbs out, his cheeks sink in, his ears turn weird, his fingernails grow into claws, and his nose turns up to mimic a bat's. This is all relying on him taking in some kind of blood, however, red or blue. Blue doesn't seem to tide him over very long, starting with 6 hours and then slowly lessening. Red blood seems to be what he actually needs, and, well, I'm not certain if it's just inherent in red blood or if it was the emotional circumstances around each time he drank human blood, but he seems to immediately morb out when he drinks red. The catch is, without blood of any kind, apparently in as little as 6 hours for blue blood, his old disease
returns with vengeance.
I did notice, however, that he only drank a single bag of blood each time, red or blue. I wonder if he drank more blue blood, if it would help him remain stable longer. I only bring this up because vampire bats, which his DNA is now spliced with, drink up to half their weight in blood every day just to survive. This is because blood is mostly water and contains 0 fats, so it's not very nutritionally dense. Contrast his single bag drinking to Milo, Lucian, who we see drain multiple bodies. Now, blood bags contain about 250 to 300 milliliters, while the human body contains about 4,500 to 5,700 milliliters of blood. One bag is nothing. If he has a hunger anywhere on par with his little flying buddies, he needs to be drinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 liters of blood a day, or about 10.5 gallons of blood for our American audience. That's roughly 7 people a night. Okay, we joked a lot about Morbius. In fact, the world in general joked a lot about him. But when laying it down, he's actually pretty dangerous. The one thing we have going for us as paladins is that he's likely to negotiate. After all, these two caught him. That tells me he won't try to hurt a paladin. He doesn't want to hurt anyone, so that does temper things slightly. Slightly. But how hard would he actually be to contain if he got a hold of some red and morbed out? Super speed and strength. He can hear your heartbeat, single out the sound of your voice across New York City, and use echolocation to map out his surroundings. If that doesn't work, he can still hit you with a bat Hadouken. He tears apart people with guns and shrugs off most attacks. He's too fast for bullets and doesn't seem to have any weakness to sunlight or holy objects. He doesn't seem to explicitly have a healing factor, but he does tend to shrug off most damage, especially blunt force damage. For the sheer capacity to kill and ignore damage, along with his ability to escape and elude paladin capture, I feel like I have to give Morbius a paladin threat level of 4, our highest threat to date. Okay, let's look at Morbius and see what we can actually do to contain him. Obviously, negotiation is our top priority. Much like with Edward, we need to make sure the parish fathers choose someone who's genuine in their approach. Morbius can monitor heartbeats, which, in his world, means he can tell if you're lying. And he's just in general a pretty clever guy. But if that breaks down, what can we actually do to stop him? I'm going to start with sonic attacks. Firstly, we might be able to hit those sensitive ears with high-pitch, high-frequency sound attacks. Bonus, though, we might actually be able to jam his echolocation, if we can find the frequency he uses. In nature, competing bats will actually jam one another's sonar specifically to keep them from feeding. Assuming he works the same, that's an avenue we can explore. His strength is huge, but about on par with the higher-level vampires we deal with at the Stewardship. While he seems to quite easily shrug off blunt force attack, piercing and slashing seem to work. If we can dart him, tase him, or even just pierce him, we might be able to drain enough blood to weaken him. The catch is his amazing reflexes. Maybe mixing that with the sonic attacks could open him up. When we look at the scene where he first dodges a bullet, we see ripples in the air as the bullet trails past him, insinuating that vibration plays some part in his evasion. If we can blind this sense, he might not be able to feel shots coming from a distance. I think numbers will definitely need to play a part in this takedown. He can certainly dodge one bullet coming at him from the front, but 12, 15, 20 shots coming from all directions? Oh, and let's not take turns shooting at him. Much like Dracula, though, I keep coming back to the blood issue. Dracula had to rest in his coffin and was literally dead to the world while resting. Morbius can only go 6 hours max without drinking blue blood and is loath to actually drink red. I wonder if tracking him and waiting him out would prove advantageous. Okay, first and foremost, negotiation with an earnest paladin. He may choose to turn himself over. Barring that, we pull out the big guns. Literally. Full parish deployment with backup. No arguing on this one, guys. You need a second team to coordinate this takedown. I recommend Team 1 engage close up with firearms, sonic devices, and either darts or tasers. Get him to bleed if possible, but mostly keep his attention on you. Second team should be in sniper position, multiple angles if the situation allows. While Team 1 distracts, Team 2 goes for the kill, either metaphorically or literally depending on your goals in this one. Heavy vestments for Team 1, lots of first aid on standby for Team 2. Encoded communication is essential, but review the plan ahead of time in case he actually can use electromagnetism to disrupt comms. Who'da thunk it? Michael Morbius is probably our most dangerous vampire to date. I know Domitrescu had that huge dragon form, but she more or less lets you pump ammo into her without caring. Morbius actually thinks, actually moves. He's dangerous. And now that I'm done analyzing, I do have one question. Well, I have lots of questions about that movie, but in particular, at the end of the movie, he made up a cure that killed Milo and planned on using it for himself too because the blue blood wouldn't work for much longer. But after he offs Milo, he just doesn't. He's fine? He even has time to meet with the Vulture, looking no worse for wear. I don't follow this movie's logic very well. In any case, I hope you enjoyed our analysis of Michael Morbius. If you did, please drop a like and subscribe, and why not comment down below while you're at it? Don't forget we're doing one vampire a month until December, when we round up all of them and rank them to see which one most exemplifies vampire-ness. Anyway, we'll put up some polls so you can vote on your favorites. Our little collection grows. I'm so excited to get to our next one. If you have a suggestion on who we should analyze next, drop it in the comments or hit us up on Twitter @PaladinArchive. Don't forget, we also stream on Twitch @PaladinArchives. Most recently, I finished up the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, some Raid Shadow Legends, and even a little Untitled Goose Game. I also stream my research whenever possible, so keep your eyes out for that. Oh, and of course, Please stop by MatthiasTautimus.com to take a look at the debut novel, The Paladin, by writer Matthias Tautimus. It details the adventures of a new member to our clandestine order as he confronts the very forces of hell itself, while also learning how to talk to girls. You decide which is harder. Well, I gotta go find a broom and get this confetti cleaned up or Maddie will kill me. I'll see you next time, and don't forget, keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's hiding out there. Two more vampire bat facts to give you fun images tonight. When one bat doesn't get enough blood, others will often regurgitate some of the blood they drain to help the one that's lacking. Can you see Milo and Morbius doing that? Gross. Oh, but it gets better. Because blood is mostly water, vampire bats are almost constantly urinating. Bat facts.